Yo guys, Sam here, and I know this video is a little bit late. The R5 has been out for quite a while now, but I finally got the opportunity to take out this camera on a proper commercial, professional shoot, and I want to give my opinions and thoughts as to why I think this camera is not for me. I posted about this on Instagram and some people were offended by it. I think it's because they really love the camera, and rightfully so. I think this is a fantastic camera, but I think it's also very important to understand, despite a camera being new, you know, the latest and greatest, has amazing specs, it's not necessarily the right camera for you. And hopefully the take back from this video is that you don't see this as me disliking the camera, but rather how I, as a professional photographer and filmmaker, choose my next camera and whether it's the right fit for me. So one of the first few things that I look for is how a camera can integrate with my current workflow and my existing pieces of equipment. And one of the reasons why the R5 isn't for me is because of my laptop and, well, my computer. Your laptop or your computer is probably going to be the most important thing next to your camera, because that's how you're going to be processing all your images. And I use a late 2017 MacBook Pro, and with the cameras that I currently use, which is the C70 and the 1DX Mark III, I haven't really found a lot of issues working with my MacBook Pro. It's a little bit sluggish when it comes to 4K, but I don't shoot a lot of 4K. But the file sizes on like an EOS R or a 5D Mark IV or 1DX Mark III edit really well in Lightroom and Photoshop without really slowing down the computer. In fact, it doesn't slow it down at all. And what happens is when I import these photos into Lightroom, it lags ever so slightly. Like when you're changing the exposure, you gotta wait like a split second before you see the actual change. And you might be wondering, you know, a split second isn't a lot, but it adds up. You know, let's say you're going through like thousands of images to cull per job, you know, and you're going through and there's this slight lag, and every second counts when you're working. Obviously, I work as a professional and I shoot a lot of images, and when I'm going through and they're just slowing down ever so slightly, the time just sort of adds up and it bogs everything down. And rendering time for the photos to render out R5 photos, to export R5 photos, takes significantly longer than photos from like my 5D or a 1DX Mark III, you know. And you might be wondering, okay, why not you just upgrade your computer? And see, that is the problem and why this camera does not fit into my existing workflow and ecosystem. If I were to buy like the R5, which is already a bunch of money, I would have to then upgrade my laptop, which then is going to cost a bunch of money as well, depending on what I upgrade to. If I upgrade to an iMac, I might need different accessories and things like that, and it kind of translates into other things. If I buy an R5, I would have to buy certain accessories for it, like more CF Express cards and things like that that are specific for the R5. You know, it sort of adds up over time, and you're not just paying for the body only, you're paying for a lot more other things. And that's why, to me, the R5 doesn't really fit where I currently am right now, because I don't see the need to upgrade my computer. It works fine with the cameras that I currently own. It just bogs down a lot when it comes to the R5 files. So the second thing that I look for in a camera is the ergonomics, and ergonomics is arguably the most important thing for me when it comes to a camera. I believe that any camera you buy now is going to give you fantastic image quality. So it's not so much about the image anymore, it's about how the camera works and feels in your hands, especially when you're shooting. If you're shooting for like hours and hours and hours, you're gonna have to need a specific kind of camera that kind of fits the palm of your hand or fits the ergonomics of the way you work. And unfortunately, the R5 doesn't really fit. So I come from a 1DX Mark III, which is a full body, really beefy camera. And the reason why I like really large, big cameras is because the distribution of weight is much more manageable. This is what I mean. So when you are working with the R5, especially with like something like this, the 24-70, which is quite a heavy lens, it's kind of tilt forward a little bit. Or if you're using like the EF, the 35 1.42 that's shooting me right now, which is my favorite lens, if I put it on this camera, what happens is it's going to be tilting forward, and most of the time I find myself trying to fight the weight of the camera going down. And because of the way the grip is made on the R5, it's not really something that you can properly grip all the way. You see, like kind of here you have a little bit of a gap. On my 1DX Mark III, you obviously don't have that. And yes, I know you can add a battery grip to this, but I don't really like adding battery grips, mainly because I have bad experiences with them, and there's another point of contact of failure that I do not want. I rather have the grip integrated, but obviously that's going to be a preference. But what happens obviously when the grip and your distribution of weight is not great on these like just these normal size body cameras, you're going to be fighting the camera as you're holding it, and it just becomes a much difficult shooting experience. However, I do want to say something about the ergonomics, and that is the flip screen on this is absolutely fantastic. This is something that I wish was on my 1DX Mark III, and why the R3 looks to me as a camera that is going to be my next upgrade, because it solves a lot of issues. It has some of the functionality that I love on the 1DX3, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and it has the flip screen, and it has a full body design, and that's what I mean when I say like ergonomics play a portion in how I choose my cameras, and probably the R3 is going to be my next one. So the next thing that's related to ergonomics is I want to talk about the usability of the camera. Now the R5 for me is a hit and miss when it comes to usability, and I know a lot of people like to use the R5 for video. Unfortunately for me, the R5 is not really a video camera. It is still a stills camera that so happens to be able to shoot videos. Yes, you have a lot of the specs like the 4K and things like that, C-Log 3. However, for me, what really makes a proper video camera is not just the file sizes, but the ergonomics and the usability of it. The C70 that's shooting me right now has built-in ND filters, has proper audio jacks, it has like force color, waveform, and things like that. Everything that helps me shoot a lot more efficiently on set, and that's why I chose the C70 as a video camera. And I don't even use my 1DX3 for video that much anymore. I use it for a B cam, but not as my A cam. And this is the reason why, you know, I no longer subscribe to the idea of having a hybrid camera that does everything very well. I don't think any camera like that's going to exist, because there's always a tool for the right job. You know, the right tool for the right job. C70 is the right tool for a proper video camera. The R5 is a proper photo camera that kind of does video very well, but in terms of really working professionally, efficiently, you're going to be missing out on a lot of features. Finally, the last thing for me is going to be image quality, and I know I mentioned image quality is not going to be a big deal, but for me there are certain things that I look for when it comes to the images coming up from the camera that kind of helps me decide. And the main thing for me is going to be low light capabilities, or high ISO, and how clean the noise is. On my 1DX3 is one of the cleanest that I've used. I can easily go up to 6400. Very happy with shooting it. Like, there's going to be noise, but it's very minimal and looks like grain. However, on the R5, noise tends to pop out for me at around like ISO 1000 already, and that for me is just a no-go. You know, I don't like having too much noise. And the one thing that's very important is also that noise tolerance, or your tolerance for noise in your images, is going to be vastly different. For me, I'm quite anal about it, because I don't like the way the noise on the R5 really muddles up some of the skin tones and the skin texture. I don't really like that. So like 3200 is probably the max that I will go to. 6400 if I really need to. However, the high ISO on the R5 is not as good as my 1DX Mark III, and for me, low light is very important because I shoot in a lot of different kinds of situations. So I like my camera to be able to, you know, anywhere I go, I can just put it there and it will give me really nice files that I like, you know. And unfortunately, the R5 isn't for me. However, I do want to say that the 45 megapixels are fantastic. It does have great dynamic range. It does have great file flexibility and things like that. Colors do come out really nice straight out of camera. It's just that when it comes to high ISO, it's not really, the R5 is not really for me. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of these things come down to the physical aspects of the camera. And for me, that's really how I decide on which cameras I'm going to buy. However, once again, if the R5 is something that fits your need, and I always suggest go and try out the camera before you make the purchase. Go to a camera store if you can't rent it out, and if you find that the R5 is what suits your need, you're going to be very happy with it. It's just that it's not for me, that's all. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you think about the R5, whether it's something that you're going to pick up, or if you already own the R5, are these some of the pain points that you are also experiencing? If you have any questions, don't forget to let me know. You can email me, drop me a comment, or you can drop me a message on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.